Section: Introduction. In this section, we discuss the significance of forecasting in today's world. Governments and companies alike depend on various types of forecasts to make informed decisions. For instance, in 2020, predictions about the spread of COVID-19 led to national lockdowns worldwide. When it comes to forecasting, there are primarily two methods used. The first method, statistical forecasting, relies on analyzing time series data. This approach works best when there's a lot of data available and the conditions don't change too much over time. The second method, which we'll simply call forecasting from here on, involves human forecasters. These forecasters use their judgment to predict future events, drawing on historical data, their expertise in the field, estimates, and intuition. They consider a wide range of information and context, which allows them to make accurate predictions even when there's not much data available or when conditions are rapidly changing. However, relying on human forecasters has its downsides. It can be costly, time-consuming, and limited to specific areas where expertise is available. Additionally, human forecasts often lack detailed explanations of the reasoning behind the predictions. These limitations have led us to explore the use of language models, LMs, to automate the forecasting process. LMs can quickly process and generate text, making them a cost-effective and timely solution for forecasting. They have been trained on a vast amount of data from the internet, giving them a broad base of knowledge. Furthermore, by prompting LMs, we can gain insights into their reasoning process, which helps us understand their forecasts. In our work, we've developed a language model pipeline specifically designed for automated forecasting, focusing on predicting binary outcomes. Our system automates the three key steps in forecasting: gathering relevant information, reasoning with the available data to make a forecast, and combining individual forecasts into a final prediction. We use language models, either through prompting or fine-tuning, at each step of this process. To test and improve our system, we've compiled a large dataset of forecasting questions from 5 competitive forecasting platforms. Our dataset is split into questions published before and after June 1, 2023, to prevent our models from having prior knowledge of the test questions. We've fine-tuned a language model using a self-supervised method, which involves prompting a base model with questions and then fine-tuning a new model on the responses that were more accurate than average. This process teaches the model how to reason effectively in different contexts, improving its forecasting abilities. Our optimized system has shown promising results, nearly matching the performance of aggregated human forecasts on our test set, as measured by the Breyer score, a common metric in forecasting. This achievement marks a significant step forward in automated forecasting, as our system performs at a level comparable to a group of human forecasters, who are generally more accurate than individuals. Additionally, we've explored a selective approach where our system uses its strengths to decide whether to make a forecast for a specific question and date. In this scenario, our system outperforms the aggregated human forecasts. To summarize, our main contributions include creating the largest and most recent dataset of real-world forecasting questions for system evaluation and optimization, developing a retrieval-augmented language model system that significantly improves upon the baseline and rivals human performance, and introducing a self-supervised fine-tuning method that enhances the model's forecasting reasoning capabilities. In the related work section, we touch on the importance of calibration in accurate forecasting. Calibration ensures that forecasts are not only accurate but also reliable over time. In competitive forecasting tournaments, forecasters are judged by proper scoring rules, like the Breyer score, which encourages them to be as accurate as possible. There's a wealth of research on calibration in deep learning, which provides valuable insights into improving forecasting accuracy. To address potential issues in our dataset, we've carefully curated our questions by filtering out those that are ill-defined or have received minimal attention. We focus on binary questions and convert multiple-choice questions into binary format to avoid any leakage of information that could influence our models. Our curated dataset includes over 5,500 binary questions, with a specific split for training, validation, and testing, ensuring that our models are evaluated on the most relevant and challenging forecasting tasks. Section Summary. In this section, we introduce the importance of forecasting in decision-making processes for governments, companies, and epidemiological situations like COVID-19. We discuss two main approaches to forecasting: statistical forecasting using time series modeling and judgmental forecasting relying on human judgment and domain knowledge. We propose a language model, LM, pipeline for automated forecasting, focusing on predicting binary outcomes, which outperforms human crowds in some scenarios and approaches their performance in others. Section Main. In this section, we delve into the specifics of our study, which zeroes in on binary questions and employs the Breyer score to gauge performance. This score is calculated by squaring the difference between the probabilistic forecast and the actual outcome, with the forecast value ranging between 0 and 1, and the outcome being either 0 or 1. The beauty of the Breyer score lies in its strict propriety, meaning that if the true probability of an outcome being 1 is p, the most accurate forecast would report a probability of p. This characteristic is crucial as it discourages the reporting of skewed probabilities. For a basic comparison, a guesswork forecast of 0.5 results in a Breyer score of 0.25. To determine the overall Breyer score, we first average the scores across different retrieval dates for each question and then average these across all questions. We also calculate standard errors to gauge the precision of our results, though it's important to note that our data, being time series in nature, might not fully adhere to the assumption of independence required for standard error calculations, potentially leading to an underestimation of the actual error. Additionally, we assess calibration through the root mean square calibration error. Moving on to the models we evaluated, our study includes 14 instruction-tuned language models, LMs, such as various versions of GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT-4, Llama 2, Mistral, Nous Hermes 2 Mixtral, Yi, and Gemini Pro. For more detailed information on these models, we refer you to the appendix section dedicated to models. It's important to highlight that these models do not inherently excel at forecasting. To establish a baseline, we tested all 14 LMs without providing them with any additional information retrieval capabilities. We experimented with zero-shot prompts and scratchpad prompts, crafting candidate prompts for each strategy, selecting the best one based on performance on a validation set, and then reporting the Breyer scores on a test set. The results, which are detailed in our model comparison table, reveal that most models performed similarly to or worse than a random guess, which would have a Breyer score of 0.25. Notably, only the GPT-4 and -2 series managed to significantly outperform this unskilled baseline. However, even the best-performing model among them, the GPT-41106 preview, did not come close to the accuracy of human forecasts, which had a Breyer score of 0.149. Given the generally poor performance of all models in the baseline setting, we theorized that models require detailed context and up-to-date information to make accurate forecasts. Our system aims to address this by incorporating a news retrieval process and enhancing reasoning through optimized prompting strategies and fine-tuning. Our retrieval system operates in 4 stages: generating search queries, retrieving news articles, filtering and re-ranking based on relevance, and summarizing the text. Initially, we generate search queries by prompting the model to create queries based on the question and its background. However, to ensure a more accurate forecast, we also prompt the model to break down the forecasting question into sub-questions, each of which is used to generate a more targeted search query. This approach allows for a more comprehensive coverage of relevant topics, such as campaign finances or economic indicators in the case of election forecasts. After retrieving articles using these queries, we evaluate their relevance and filter out the less pertinent ones to avoid misleading the model during the reasoning phase. This step involves prompting GPT 3.5 Turbo to assess the relevance of each article, a process that, while effective, is also time-consuming and costly. To mitigate these costs, we limit the context provided to the model to the article's title and the first 250 words. Our approach has proven to be both efficient and cost-effective, achieving high recall and precision while saving 70% in costs. Given the limited context window of LMs, we summarize the articles to distill the most relevant details pertinent to the forecasting question. We then present the top-ranked article summaries to the LM, selecting the ranking criterion, the number of articles, and the summarization prompt based on their impact on the Breyer scores during the validation phase. This meticulous process is part of our broader effort to enhance the forecasting accuracy of LMs through optimized information retrieval and reasoning strategies. Section Summary. In this section, we focus on evaluating binary questions using the Breyer score as a performance metric, where the optimal strategy is to report the true probability. We assess 14 instruction-tuned language models, LMs, and find that without additional information retrieval, most models perform poorly, with only GPT-4 and -2 series surpassing the unskilled baseline. To address this, our system incorporates news retrieval, optimized prompting strategies, and fine-tuning to enhance forecasting accuracy. Section: Reasoning. In this section, we delve into the process of enhancing forecasting by incorporating reasoning into our models. Traditionally, forecasting models have been tasked with making predictions without the need to explain their thought process. However, making accurate predictions often requires more than just a straightforward calculation, and understanding the reasoning behind a forecast can significantly improve its accuracy. To facilitate this, we introduce the use of an open-ended scratchpad that helps structure the model's thought process. Our approach starts by asking a question, providing relevant details, and setting clear criteria for resolution and important dates, followed by the top relevant summaries. To further refine the model's ability to reason about a forecasting question, we include 4 additional steps in our optimal scratchpad prompt. First, we ask the model to rephrase the question and expand on it using its own knowledge, aiming for a more detailed and precise inquiry. Next, the model is encouraged to use both the information it retrieved and its pre-existing knowledge to construct arguments for and against the potential outcome. Recognizing that not all arguments hold the same weight, the model is then instructed to prioritize these arguments by their importance and consolidate them into an initial forecast. Lastly, to ensure the model's predictions are not overly confident or too cautious, it is prompted to assess its confidence level and adjust its forecast by considering historical data. For the base model, we use GPT-41106 Preview, prompted with the best scratchpad setups found through a hyperparameter sweep, as it consistently achieves the lowest error rates in our tests. Additionally, we have a fine-tuned version of GPT-4, specifically trained to generate reasoned forecasts without needing detailed scratchpad instructions. This model is prompted only with the basic question information. To enhance the accuracy of our forecasts, we employ an ensembling technique. We gather multiple predictions from both the base and the fine-tuned models. For the base model, we use the optimal scratchpad prompt along with the 2 next best prompts identified. For the fine-tuned model, we adjust the sampling temperature to 0.5 and prompt it 3 times to obtain 3 additional forecasts. In total, this gives us 6 forecasts, 3 from the base model and 3 from the fine-tuned model. We then combine these forecasts into a final prediction using their trimmed mean, which has shown to be the most effective method in our validation tests. To optimize our retrieval and reasoning system, we fine-tune a language model, LM, to produce reasonings that lead to accurate forecasts. We start by collecting a large dataset of forecasts and then select those where the model's performance surpasses that of human predictions. When selecting data for fine-tuning, we aim for forecasts that not only outperform human predictions but also avoid overconfidence. To this end, we discard any forecast that deviates significantly from the crowd's prediction and average our model's prediction with that of the crowd for the target output. This results in a fine-tuning dataset where the input includes the question, description, resolution criteria, and summarized articles, while the target output comprises a reasoning and a prediction. Importantly, we exclude scratchpad instructions from the fine-tuning input, teaching the model directly which reasoning to apply. After generating over 73,000 reasonings, we select the most relevant ones for fine-tuning GPT-40613 on the most recent data points for 2 epochs, constrained by our budget. Section Summary. In this section, we focus on enhancing forecasting models by incorporating reasoning capabilities to improve prediction accuracy. By structuring the model's reasoning paths using open-ended scratchpad prompts, we guide it to rephrase questions, leverage retrieved information, and calibrate predictions to prevent bias. Ensembling multiple predictions from base and fine-tuned models through a trimmed mean aggregation method results in a final forecast that outperforms individual predictions, as detailed in our system optimization procedure. Section: Hyperparameter Sweep. In this section, we discuss how we fine-tuned our system by adjusting various settings, a process known as a hyperparameter sweep. This involved experimenting with different options, like the types of prompts we used and how many articles the system reviewed before making a prediction. We found some interesting results from these experiments, which we've detailed further in the appendix. One of the first things we noticed was that our system is naturally good at making accurate predictions, a characteristic known as being well calibrated. This means that when our system predicts something has a 70% chance of happening, it tends to be right about 70% of the time. We tried using standard techniques to improve this accuracy, such as grouping predictions into bins or using a method called isotonic regression, but these didn't make our system perform any better. We then tested our optimized system against a set of questions it hadn't seen before, to see how it compared to predictions made by a large group of people. Our system's predictions were very close to the accuracy of this crowd, which was an encouraging sign. We looked into where our system did well and where it didn't, and based on these insights, we tried a new approach where the system only made predictions in areas where it was strong. This helped our system perform even better, surpassing the crowd's overall accuracy. We also explored how our system's predictions could be combined with those from the crowd to make even more accurate forecasts. When we measured our system's performance using a metric called the Breyer score, which combines both the accuracy and confidence of predictions, we found that our system scored 0.179 compared to the crowd's 0.149. This was a small difference, showing our system was quite accurate. In terms of straight accuracy, our system was correct 71.5% of the time, while the crowd was correct 77.0% of the time. This was a significant improvement over previous automated systems, which had lower accuracy rates on similar questions. Our detailed analysis showed that our system did particularly well in certain areas, like sports, where it nearly matched the crowd's accuracy. However, it didn't do as well in predicting environmental and energy events. We noted that these results might not be entirely reliable due to the small number of questions in some categories, which could make the results vary more than they would otherwise. We also found that our system was still well calibrated when we tested it on new questions, meaning its predictions were as accurate as we expected them to be. This was an improvement over some of the initial models we tested, which weren't as reliable in their predictions. Next, we looked more closely at what our system was good at and where it could improve. We found that it did best when the crowd wasn't very sure about their predictions, when the questions were about events happening soon, and when it could look at many articles to inform its predictions. Our system tended to be overly cautious, likely because of how it was trained to avoid making risky predictions. This cautious approach helped in some cases but not in others, especially as events got closer and more information became available. Overall, our experiments and adjustments helped us understand how to make our forecasting system more accurate and reliable. By focusing on its strengths and understanding its limitations, we were able to improve its performance and make it a useful tool for predicting future events. Section Summary. In this section, we conduct a hyperparameter sweep to optimize our system's performance, focusing on an intermediate metric and exploring various choices like prompts and the number of articles presented. Interestingly, our system is naturally well calibrated, and traditional calibration methods do not enhance its performance. When evaluated on the test set, our optimized system closely approaches human crowd performance, showcasing strengths in selective forecasting and complementing aggregated human forecasts. Section: System beats crowd in the selective setting. In this section, we discuss how our system can outperform the crowd in specific scenarios, particularly in real-world forecasting competitions where forecasters choose which questions to predict based on their expertise or interest. We take advantage of our system's strengths and weaknesses to decide whether we should make forecasts on a certain date for a specific question. By focusing on conditions where our system shows its strengths, we manage to achieve better performance than the crowd. Firstly, we find that our system performs better when making predictions on questions where the crowd's prediction is uncertain, specifically when the crowd's prediction falls between 0.3 and 0.7. Under these conditions, our system achieves a Breyer score of 0.238, slightly better than the crowd's score of 0.240. This scenario accounts for 51% of our forecasts and 56% of the questions. Secondly, when we make forecasts earlier, specifically on retrieval dates 1, 2, and 3, our system's Breyer score is 0.185, although this is not as good as the crowd's score of 0.161. This covers 66% of our forecasts and all the questions. Thirdly, our system performs well when the retrieval system provides at least 5 relevant articles, achieving a Breyer score of 0.175 compared to the crowd's 0.143. This represents 84% of our forecasts and 94% of the questions. When we apply all 3 conditions together, our system achieves a Breyer score of 0.240, which is slightly better than the crowd's 0.247. This applies to 22% of our forecasts and 43% of the questions. We notice that the gap in Breyer score between our system and the crowd decreases with each heuristic, except for the third one. In the first scenario, our system slightly outperforms the crowd, which is significant as it shows our system can complement the crowd's prediction, especially when there's more uncertainty. When all 3 conditions are met, our system significantly outperforms the crowd by more than 1.5 standard errors in both Breyer score and accuracy. Furthermore, we demonstrate that combining our system's predictions with the crowd's forecasts leads to better performance than either alone. Using a weighted average, with 4 times more weight for the crowd, found to be optimal in our validation set, improves the overall Breyer score from 0.149 to 0.146 on the full test set. Our system is particularly useful under certain criteria, where it can supplement the crowd's prediction effectively. For instance, when the crowd's prediction falls between 0.3 and 0.7, the crowd's Breyer score is 0.24, while our system achieves 0.237. Beyond direct score improvements, our system can also assist human forecasters by providing effective news retrieval and offering new perspectives based on knowledge from LM pre-training. We plan to explore how our system can interactively help human forecasters in future work. Lastly, we conduct 3 ablation studies to validate our system's performance. The first study confirms that our performance is not solely due to the power of GPT-4. The other 2 studies highlight the benefits of our retrieval and fine-tuning methods. Without any news retrieval and using just the base GPT-4 model, our system's performance drops to a Breyer score of 0.206, which is close to the baseline level of 0.208. This suggests that without fine-tuning or retrieval, the improvement our system offers over the baseline is minimal, highlighting the importance of these components in our system's success.